welcome to Space Talks. I'm Łukasz, I'm the president of the European Space Foundation and the organizer of the European Rover Challenge. In this special episode, we'll talk about this astonishing project. Its 7th edition launches on the 10th of September. And to bring more light onto the competition part of ERC, I invited exceptional guests, the main judges of ERC. So we have here Anna Łosiak, Marsyard designer and the main judge of the science task. Hello, Ania. We have Marcin Wygachiewicz, head of jury board in the on-site formula. Hello, Marcin. And hello. We have Szymon, Dzwończyk, head of jury board in remote formula. Hello, Simon. So let's start with Anna, maybe, because first we go to the Marsyard. Let's move to the Marsyard. So how is the Marsyard that teams compete on created? Is it a complicated process?
Oh yeah, we start doing that soon after the previous edition is done. So we have started thinking about the next Marsyard around December, actually. It all starts from reading a lot of literature on Mars to be as up to date as possible. Well, anyway, we are all, or most of us, are active researchers in the field of planetary geology. So we are up to date, but to be, exceptionally up to date, we check out what's new on Mars every time. So, for example, this year there was a paper, a very exciting one, that was suggesting that there might still be some active volcanoes on the surface of Mars, and this is why we decided to go with this topic this year. So this is why this year's edition will take place on Elysium.
I hope this little guy sitting next to Simon will go with this volcano, because I've seen it. It's huge, not that huge as on Mars, of course. So that's the question. The next question: to what extent does the Marsyard replicate the conditions faced by the rovers currently on Mars?
Well, to some extent, let's say it in this way, we are trying to replicate all the important features, geological features that you can find on Mars. So, for example, some lava flows, some volcanoes, some water-related features. All of that you will find on our Marsyard. However, obviously, we are not able to provide a gigantic pressurized chamber with the Martian temperatures, with Martian pressure, and with Martian atmosphere. And probably it's a good thing, because I suspect that most of the rovers would not survive those conditions. So we are similar to some extent, but not identical to what you can find on Mars.
Okay, thank you. And because I've mentioned that you are the head of judge of science task on the Mars, so let's speak about the science task. So what does this task consist of? What knowledge and skills do the teams need to demonstrate to get approval from the judges, from you as well?
Well, it's actually pretty complicated, and it all starts with Mars and Mars design. So our Marsyard is not only this kind of sand pit that you often find in other places that are using Marsyards mostly for kind of engineering testing. Our Marsyard is more complicated than that, because it includes a true but artificial geological story behind it. So the main task of the teams is to try to guess, kind of reverse engineer what was happening in the past on the Mars surface. That they can see in their Marsyard. So once they do that, they need to explain their vision for the geological history of this area in a form of geological maps. And this geological map, along with short description, and most importantly, with a hypothesis that they find. So hypothesis is kind of research question that is phrased in a specific way that is focused on something that is unclear on our Mars. So, for example, was this geological, let's say, lava flow was older than this crater, or it wasn't? And how does it influences the rest of the story that we can see on our Marsyard? All of that they put into the report, and we are judging how well did they guessed or reverse engineered the geological history of the area, and how good research questions do they ask, and why. So actually most of the hardest parts of the science tasks is taking part before the actual ERC, because those reports are due about a week before the ERC starts. During the ERC, their scientific task, is to perform what they planned. So if they decide to, for example, drive to some kind of dune, if there is a dune, and check out what is it made of, we are going to check if they did what they promised and how well did they do, and if their scientific ideas about what they found and how they interpret data that they collected are correct or not. So that's the most important part of the science task. However, we also have some surprises, because Mars is full of surprises. And they also need to have their eyes opened all the time, because who knows, there might be some signs of life on Mars, or at least on Marsyard, that they may discover.
That sounds very intriguing. So let's jump to Marcin right now, because I want to ask Marcin, what makes student teams from all over the world come to ERC to participate in the competition? Why do you think is it worth of it?
I suppose the main thing is the word that it's in its name, so the challenge. So the second word is actually Mars, the challenge of Mars. Who doesn't want to participate in that? So regarding the challenge, for sure it is. As a design of a complicated system as a rover, it's not a simple task, definitely not a simple task. It involves multiple disciplines, multiple skills, which have to be combined together and managed in an effective way in order to succeed. Moreover, design of the Mars rover, I think it's something inspirational. When you hear it, you just want to build it. If you just want to be part of it. I guess it's a dream of many people, but luckily for the students, we are making this dream come true somehow, with some, of course, exceptions. For example, we have quite a lot of oxygen and water on our Marsyard. Of course, we are happy that so many students are going to participate, are eager to do this challenge and to develop really valuable competences by working on their projects, which those competences will be really necessary for their future.
So, Marcin, I'm very curious, of course I know, but our viewers are very curious. How do the teams prepare for the September finals? Do the team build their rover entirely from the scratch, or any instruction for that? How much work and effort is needed to get to the finals?
Of course, not in the remote formula, for sure. They do not build
This
rover,
is something we will talk with
Simon
later, right?
Of course, jokes on the side. Honestly, it depends on a team. However, looking at the documentation that we already received from the teams, it looks that majority of them, they just have a previous experience or previous design of the rovers, which they are just making better and better. Anyway, even if you have some baseline and you are just making it, improving the design, it's still a complex task, especially considering that we really reformulated all of the tasks. So if you compare what we will have this year with the edition from 2019, it's completely different. So we just did it to keep the teams more challenged and to have more fun. Of course, also regarding the effort, because you asked about that, it was really a lot of work for jury. Okay, again joke, but even more work for the teams. Teams had to provide the proposal, the preliminary report for the qualification. In case of the remote edition, they had to attend the test drives. After qualification, teams had to provide even more documentation. So like in the on-site formula, they had to provide the final report, they had to provide video material, and once again, in case of remote, they attended the test drive. So regarding the documentation, I would actually say that it has more value this year than in the previous edition. I think all of the teams have noticed that. And what is the reason? It's simple, because the documentation will be your main tool in the future, and we just would like to show you how to do it. But of course, it makes the effort much bigger than in the previous editions of the ERC.
That what I'm always underlying, that the presentation task actually, it's a very important thing, and preparing all the documentary, because it's not only building a rover and show up on the Marsyard, but it's going through the entire process. So my question is about, let's keep to the 12th of September. We have the crowning ceremony. There we have a beautiful moment, and the winner is. So my question is how the winner of the competition will be chosen. What is it taken into account during the judging, and when will the winners will be announced?
Okay, so basically to choose the winner, we will have to sum up all of the points. So considering the effort that was made during the documentation, all of the tasks that were realized between 10th and 12th September on the Marsyard, and also in the room for the presentation. We have also quite a lot of awards this year. So we have first, second, and the third places in both formulas. But on top of that, we have also award for each task in both formulas. So basically, for science, navigation, maintenance, and presentation task, in both formulas there is an award, and also in the probing task, in case of on-site only. Regarding the announcement of the results, it will be done on 12 September, I guess around 5 p.m. As always, it was the time for the announcement.
And
so looking forward to that day.
Yep. This is always an amazing time when everyone is looking for that. And so actually, my next question goes to Szymon, because I have to also mention that Szymon is the former winner of ERC, the first one, so that he knows the drill. So, Szymon, what tasks are prepared for this year competition? Competitors of both formulas, remote and on-site. Marcin already mentioned, but I want to, go a little bit deeper to that. How do the formulas differ from each other as well?
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So, in case of the different, so the main formula of both editions, both remote and on-site, remains the same. So you have presentation, which remains typical presentation of the team's efforts and of the team's history and the things that they did and weren't able to do as well. Second thing is the science task, which in on-site, as I remember, and in remote is quite the same. So the teams need to, as Anya already told, they need to prepare their hypothesis and then drive their rovers, either their own rovers or our rovers, like the real rovers, on the Marsyard, and find the proper proofs for their hypothesis and find the proper interesting objects as well. Then we have these two master tasks. So in remote we have navigation and science, which is there is one traversal where they need to do both of the tasks. They need to prepare and know what they are good in, and if they want to push more in navigation or they want to push more in science, and just that they need to feel themselves, they need to feel their own software, their own rovers, and their own approach. In on-site they have as well this probing task where they need to pick the peak, Marcin needs to tell me actually here if they pick actually or leave the probes, because I never know. And so that's the thing. And then we have the maintenance task, which is somewhat actually independent, both in remote and on-site. So the maintenance task focuses more on the on preparing the software and like using robotic arms in remote conditions. So in on-site, actually, the teams build their own robotic arms and then use them to pick some to put some switches and etc. in remote panel. And in remote, actually, we have our own like off-the-shelf robotic arm that they use. Yeah? So that's pretty much it. And then you have like some other score for the, as Marcin already told, on the documentation and video materials in case of remote edition as well.
Rob, I want to mention also that the sounds you can hear in the back when Simon was talking, he's not a gym. Actually, we are building the rovers right now. This Leo rovers that is behind him, and this is the rover we use in the remote the formula. So my question is, how is remote control of the rover, of this Leo rover, how this control is accomplished? Do teams operate in real time, or do they support themselves with prepared or pre-prepared and uploaded algorithm?
Right. So I would start with on-site competition, where I would say it's much easier for us, for the judges, to give the proper way for the teams to operate, because they know their own devices, their own network, etc. So they prepare everything that was tested already in their like labs or like universities, and then they deploy it in the real life Marsyard, right? So that's how it works normally in on-site competition. What we actually did last year and do this year as well in remote edition is that we actually deploy the rovers for them and we deploy the networks for them. The only thing that they need to prepare is the plan and the software. And of course, they can remotely control the rovers. So like the weight of the competition actually moved more from the technical, like building, like this hardcore building stuff, to being well prepared, more to software and to the planning thing, because the planning is scored as well. Yeah, and technically, actually, we are giving access to. We have 2 rovers on Marsyard. We are giving access for the teams to the rovers. They connect from like wherever they are, from their own universities, homes, etc., to their like their prepared rovers, which already has the software that they prepared like previously in the last months actually. So they prepared the software, they tested in the test drives. Now they give the software to us, and we actually deploy it on the rover, and then they can remotely control the rover via SSH, like control to the connect to the actually Linux that runs in the rover, and then they can monitor and use their own software that was previously developed. Yeah.
Sounds astonishing. So how do you think, what's the biggest challenge for teams participating in this remote formula? Does lack of obligation to design or rover you mentioned make the remote formula maybe easier?
So I wouldn't say easier, but really different, and that's what we already saw in like this year. That like there are really different teams that went through the qualification in on-site and in remote formula. These are like totally different teams that have different approaches. And so in remote, what really works and really has the real value, the real meaning in the scoring, etc., is being able to feel your needs and feel your expectations, and be able to plan your own like the way that you drive, the way that you use the rover properly during the task. So, for example, teams who will do it like totally manually will get like quite a good score as well, when they actually tell that we'll do it totally manually. So they won't actually try to develop things that they don't feel they don't need, like maybe and that comes the other way as well. If they tell us that they want to drive totally autonomously, They will get scores based on that, and based on that, they will actually do that. Like so there is this like score based on the difference between the plans and the real life deployment. Yeah, and that's the biggest part of the remote formula, and that's the biggest issue and problem for the teams, that they need to get to feel themselves, so to feel their experience. And I wouldn't say that it's easier. It's just different, because they won't build their own rovers, so they used our own, like the same rovers, the same hardware. They cannot really dig into this infinite loop of some F-ups and repairing things and then doing all over the same. They are using the same hardware, then they can focus actually on the things that are actually scored, because the hardware is not scored. The things that are scored is the deployment, the things that they perform in the competition, right? And that comes the same. That's the same thing for remotely and on-site. They are not scored for the rover itself. And they actually, in remote, they can do that. They can actually focus on the software side, and they can focus on the planning side. And it's I would say it's fun. It's really fun to see that the teams that previously went through the on-site editions, like, it doesn't mean necessarily that they are good in remote.
Yeah, that's the case. So, guys, it's very short before ERC. So my question to you was, what was the biggest challenge in your previous up to now task? I know, Anya, you spent a lot of time building with the team this Marsyard, but also preparing the science task. So can you tell me, each of you, what was the biggest challenge for you in the recent months preparing ERC?
I think that the largest challenge is always kind of organizing everything so that everything comes together in one moment. Actually, in a couple of moments, but those couple of moments need to be arranged very, very carefully. So, for example, when we are designing our Marsyard, as I mentioned previously, it starts in December, but then we spent really months of work of many people, my entire team, to put it together so that once it makes a good and real geological history of Mars. Second, it is appropriate for the competition so that there are some easy parts, there are some hard parts, both from the point of view of science and also from the point of view of engineering or from navigation for rovers of very different qualities and different way of moving, different sizes and so on. So it's really hard to make sure that all of those issues are coming together in just one project. The project also needs to look good because we all want to enjoy our time on Mars and also have nice pictures from Mars in Kielce. We also need to make sure that, for example, people that are visiting our science fair also have a section for themselves that they can enjoy and take good pictures, for example. So everything is very complicated, and when we are building that, we need to, for example, make sure that every step is planned so that it's not only looks good and looks as realistic as possible, but it's also possible to be done within a budget. Because preparing all of that is a week of hard work of 6 people with shovels and also some heavy equipment. So people with large digging machines, people with this year magma that need to bring it in a very specific order, and if there is some slight change, for example, weather is bad, as it was, or anything goes not as exactly as planned, everything needs to be rearranged. So it's quite a stressful situation.
I saw the photos. It was extreme work in this, hard rain, actually. And when it will be linked, we have water on Mars. It was raining on Mars, so it's amazing to see this. So we see the challenge, right? Just when you were talking with electricity of Simon's laptop. So Simon's, what was the biggest challenge this year?
Yeah, so actually charging the rovers is quite a big challenge during the competition, because we need to keep up with that. But so this year
but
the biggest challenge
is included, right? It's battery is included. Okay.
Yeah, we actually have plenty of them on site. But getting back to that, the biggest challenge and the biggest thing to focus on, because in remote competition we need to communicate with the teams and actually sit with them pretty much all the time. So the first test drives were in May, I think. Yeah, we already did 3 test drives up until now, and we are constantly bombarded by the teams with questions, because compared to on-site, they don't know what they are doing, they don't know the hardware. They can ask us and we are free to help. And actually, this kind of support is the biggest challenge here, because we take the responsibility of deploying the software that they have. And if we don't have some tips and tricks, or we have some documentation issues from our side as well, the teams won't be able to check that and won't be able to know that. So we are constantly trying to find a way to give the teams the proper advantage, the proper way to test their software, test their approaches. And that's the biggest thing here. And of course, being in Kielce on the Marsyard, constantly 4 times during the vacations, etc. It's actually much of the effort that maybe is not always seen from the other side, right?
That's why we are talking, to show also, I don't want to say our sacrifice, but it is actually. So Marcin, what about you? Tons of papers coming, tons of, to read, to verify?
Yeah, actually, Anya has already started more or less what was also a challenge for me. Organizational topics, because if you combine organization of ERC for the jury, and if you combine it with normal work, with other commitments that you have, it's really a chaos sometimes. And especially when you have, let's say, a big amounts of work in case of ERC. So for example, let's say the first peak was with the rules, when I was mostly in contact with Szymon, and we were working to finish both rules for the on-site and for the remote editions on time. Of course, we had some delay. Then the other peak was when we have received the documents. And for example, for the on-site edition, we have received 58 documents from 58 teams, which was really a big amount of documents to be checked. So proposals, preliminary reports, and we had to do everything to provide the qualification list on 20th June. And after that, let's say we had to focus on the organization of the final ERC, which, and actually right now we have a lot of works with, let's say, fixing everything to be ready for the final days between 9th and 12th September. It's still a lot of work for the teams, a lot of work for the juries, a lot of work for the other people involved in the ERC. So really, lot of questions coming from every side. So going back to with what I started, actually the organization of everything and trying to respond and do everything what I want, what I should do, is really the most challenging part.
I think that we saw very interesting thing when we were talking, because I saw slowly Leo Rover coming for Szymon, and now he's gone. So it's alive. So actually, maybe he will join us once more. But guys, can you tell me how many of you are there? So how many judges are coming? How many judges will be for science? How many judges will be on site? Because let's bring more light on that. How big this army is.
The entire team science is 6 people. So there's quite a lot of us. It's not only me. We are all working quite a lot to make sure that every single piece of this puzzle is put together, that, for example, your reports are not checked by only a single person that, for example, may not have enough coffee at this particular moment when checking the report, so that every single report is checked by all of us. So whatever you wrote, it will be read by at least 6 people. And then we are all discussing our thoughts on your work in order to make sure that the judgment is as fair as humanly possible.
Marcin? The same question for you. How many are judges in total from your perspective?
Yeah, I was actually thinking, because recently I was providing the list of the jury, so more or less it will be between 15 and 20 involved in all of the tasks on the Marsyard also in the presentation. So the interesting thing is actually that in case of presentation and maintenance task, we will have just two teams of juries for each of the tasks, because those tasks will be done in parallel. So basically on Friday, Saturday, and maybe even Sunday, both remote and on-site formulas will be going at the same time. As I may conclude, actually the biggest problem may be in case of navigation, science, and probing, because we have only one Marsyard. So that will be actually the real challenge.
We have only one Marsyard, so that sounds like we need 2. That will be the challenge, right? We saw that Leo Rover has given back the Szymon to us, because we thought that you were struggling with him. Szymon, how big the team of remote is coming from this? Because we want to bring more light of how many of us are here.
So it's pretty much a big team, I would say. In the maintenance task, I know that there are like 2 judges and then 3 technical. So essentially we have like the technical team and the judges, right? So the judges are responsible for the scoring, and then we have the technical people who are responsible for the task itself, right? Because somebody needs to like zero the robotic arm, somebody needs to take care of that and make sure that it's not broken. Because one team may leave that like let's say the arm broken, and then we need to make sure that the arm is in superposition it's actually repaired for the other team, right? And so there is the team of full team of 5 people around the maintenance task. I know that there are like Marcin needs to here like around 2 judges as well with presentation, yeah. And then we have the team of like many people from science. Anya, I know Anya, how many judges are in science actually?
At 6.
But,
that's 6.
6, yeah, it's always a lot. And in navigation we have 2 judges and then 6 people from us, from Leo Rover actually. Because we need to make sure that like we're running 2 rovers at the same time, because one team is preparing and second team is performing the task at the same time, right? And then we need to make sure that every rover runs on the full battery, like starts with a full battery with zeroed software. with like zero to like odometry, etc., etc. We need to make sure that everything looks the same for each team, just not to give any team any other advantage and any issues that may come from the other, right? And that's why actually we performed these 3 test drives, which essentially they were like this ERC field trials, like the last trials put in like 2 days. Yeah, so each test drive was like put in only 2 days, where we went through all the teams with the same time that we give the teams, because it works both ways. So the teams prepare, the teams test their own performance, their own preparation to the test drive, but as well we test our own preparation to the challenge itself, right? So, and that's something that really opens your eyes and makes you actually like less judgy around the whole thing, right?
So guys, now the only thing we have to do now is to invite people, actually, because now you could hear our noble judges talking about how it looks like, how it's complicated, how many effort is put into preparing this project. So just join us 10th to 12th of September, and you can join us on site. You can meet all of us. You can find us there, of course, on Marsyard. If you cannot come, you can join us online, just watching a stream on roverchallenge.eu website or here on Space Talks as well channel, and you can join us from wherever you are. We will be all the 3 days over there, and don't forget that there is also a program that will be simultaneously running online. So there will be a lot of things to see and to join us and to feel, actually, and to inspire. So any last words you want to inspire people to join us?
Come, it's the only place on Earth where you can feel like you're on Mars.
And we have cookies, right?
And it's fun.
We always have a lot of cookies and coffee.
Yeah, we have it, and of course we have Leo, and Leo will be nice rover on the side. I saw it already, and of course, if you want to, high five with us, we will be there on Marsyard. You cannot miss it. It's huge. It's really, really huge, and you will see volcanoes as well. Very safe. I already saw it. So thank you guys very much. I really appreciate, because taking your time always before ERC is very risky, because you have a lot of work. But thank you very much. You have found the time for this short announcement of how the ERC is being prepared.